Jyotsna, we are starting in 1 minute. Yeah. Yes,
Hello.
yes, Jyotsna. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, Jyotsna.
Yeah.
So, um, welcome to Sci'versation with Prash. We have a wonderful persona today, Jyotsna Batra, who is an associate professor at Queensland Translational Research Institute, Queensland University of Technology, Brisbane. And before we probably formally begin, may I request everyone to mute your microphones who are there in the Google Meet. I know many of you are all watching from YouTube with internal links. But if at all, if someone is over here, we request you to kindly mute your microphones, please. So, Jyotsna Batra is currently based in Australia, so she's about 4.5 hours ahead. We sincerely thank her for coming online for today's Sci'versation. I've known Jyotsna Batra for over 2 years. It was way back in Jaipur when she was here for an LGBT talk, a wonderful talk that I witnessed on prostate cancer. And by then, I was just, I'd been into about 1.5 years into prostate cancer research. I just started my work, setting up my own group and working primarily on prostate cancer exomes. And that was how we met. And she has been absolutely an instrumental person in guiding us and in motivating us. I've been getting inspired from her research. Prostate cancer for the last 1.5 decades. And we'll slowly get to learn from her on what inspired her to take up prostate cancer research and the wonderful, passionate research goals that she has gone through as a principal investigator across different projects. So, a quick introduction about Jyotsna Batra. I would probably come up with two important things here. One is I'll quickly introduce Jyotsna Batra in terms of research navigations. She studied her MSc from KUK, and then she went on to obtain a PhD from IGIB based in Delhi. And most of her basic schooling, elementary schooling, was from Patiala. And then she joined as a research fellow, taking up several goals, primarily moving her research from asthma to cancer. We will probably get to hear from Jyotsna. So, Jyotsna, welcome to this in Sci'versation. Would you quickly go through these wonderful photographs, from your own voice? Yeah, please.
Absolutely. Thank you, Prash, for having me. It's been a terrific collaboration over the couple of years, and it's really great to know you. And I'm really pleased that I could be here today and be part of this conversation with you, of which I'm really thrilled to see people joining and coming and becoming part of this. So, as you've already mentioned, that I've done my master's from Kurukshetra University. Um, I don't have very old photos because they were all hard copies at that time. We were not used to have soft copies. And I don't have much of pictures to share from my master's degree, but it was a very exciting time doing some biochemistry, learning new subjects and topics. And I actually got really interested in immunology while doing my biochemistry. And this is why I wanted to do a PhD in immunology and then started looking for a lab which does immunology essentially, and ended up at IGIB with Dr. Balram Ghosh because he was the best immunologist at that time. But when I joined the lab, it happened to me that it was an immunogenetics lab as well, and the group was trying to do quite a bit of genetics as well of asthma essentially. Um, there were samples being collected, but not a good analytical platform was available. No, a little bit of help from statistician, but not really a hardcore genetics or those type of stuff happening. And I love taking challenges. So this is why when I decided that it's okay, everybody can do immunology, but in this lab, people are struggling to do genetics. So why not? I will take the genetics up. And this is how I entered into genetics, started really liking it, um, and then had my PhD completed in asthma genetics, was able to publish, I think, 17 pubs out of my PhD, I think, which is a pretty good stuff to get it done within a PhD. But this was all because genetics was really booming also at that time and was a new field. So the photo you actually see here is a catch-up we did a few years ago, I think 2015 in the USA with the IGIB PhD scholars which were there at my time. So I got to meet all of them who are in the USA at this stage. Unfortunately, people don't move to Australia somehow after finishing their PhD. So it was a challenge for me to find. I was getting also interested in the USA, but I was thrilled about Australia because I got an opportunity to come to Australia for an Indo-Australian conference in 2007. And this is when actually I visited Brisbane. Absolutely loved the city. The weather was very beautiful, and the research was also exciting. And I heard that there is really good life-work balance, and this is what inspired me to look for opportunities in Australia. Um, and the interesting fact was also about coming to Australia was basically this was the only place which offered me the written contract before obtaining my PhD degree, while the states and everyone was talking about USA was talking about that, yeah, we are absolutely happy to take you on board as a postdoc fellow, but first want to see your degree. While the contract from Brisbane came hand in hand, even when I have not submitted my thesis. So that was a fantastic opportunity. And then I took it on board and moved to Brisbane. So the next photo you see, the second one here in this, the bottom one is my university, Queensland University of Technology. It has got several campuses, and I was in a different campus, but now I am at the Translational Research Institute, which is a beautiful and lovely part of the university. And on the top side, the photo you see is actually representing the institute where I work. So very quickly, I actually became the face of my institute. So this is the banner they prepared and they display it everywhere. And I got the opportunity to click my photo with this banner, which was terrific. And then I had to take a bit of a career break when I had my child born in 2009. But those 6 months went very quickly, and then I came back to work, um, which was a terrific year, coming back in 2010 and straight away winning an HMRC, which is the National Health and Medical Research Council Fellowship within Australia. That's a 4 years fellowship. Um, that kind of led to kickstart of my career. The previous one was also international fellowship advertised, was called EB Postdoctoral Fellowship, on which I joined. But this was first win of a national fellowship, which is highly competitive with around 10 to 12% success rate. So that was a great opportunity to start my career, and that led to further winning of several grants. So some of and awards, and some of the photos actually relates to that. I got my Australian citizenship in 2015. I kept on just neglecting it for a long time because I wasn't sure if I was staying here permanently or coming back to India. And we don't get dual citizenship here, so I have to give up on my Indian citizenship to get Australian citizenship. So I became permanent resident, I think, in 2010, but was not taking up the citizenship till 2015 myself and was avoiding it. But then eventually took it because I had to apply for visas to go everywhere, and it was a pain. But I don't have to apply for visas on Australian passport, and that really helps, except for coming to India now. um, so that then led to as the after establishing my own lab, the journey has been pretty good and lovely. I've been able to get several awards from QUT. So the first one you see after the citizenship ceremony is the award from QUT for research and leadership. So it's Vice Chancellor Award of Excellence. So that's our Vice Chancellor in that photo over there. And then next one again is from QUT, which is for supervisory excellence. So all of my PhD students in that photo nominated me for that award. So these are also very tricky awards to come through. Usually 200 people are nominated. It's a big university for us, and 10 or 15 will usually get that award in a year. So I was really lucky and obliged to receive these awards. Some of the photos again at the bottom you see is my current lab, essentially. The on the right hand side, last two photos. So we do lots of social events, and at least we're doing until the COVID situation started. We celebrate birthdays really well and do lots of get together, and the families of the the PhD students come through. The one which you see me in gown is actually the only graduate ceremony I have attended in my life. I could not attend any other because I was always somewhere else. So I have never attended my, say, for example, award ceremony or the PhD award ceremony. So this is my first PhD student who passed through UT. Um, so this is where I was able to actually attend the first award ceremony of the graduation in my life. That too, not formally. I just went to see her later on. So yeah. So some of the other awards on the top top end is the Queensland Young Tall Poppy Award, which is a statewide award, which is given for services in community engagement, dissemination of science, and also, of course, for your research, which is the main outcome for a researcher, essentially. So that's with our minister here, Kate Johnson, who looks after the science and the environmental, and was really key person to also organize the Commonwealth Games. So it was a pretty proud moment for me. And the one with the Flying Scientist Award is kind of showing my outreach activities, essentially. So I'm part of this program called Flying Scientist, which is We fly to the outskirts of Australia, the very regional areas, and go to different schools and talk to them about science and inspire them to take STEM as career. It's mostly, I mean, for being a woman, I'm really interested in talking to other women who usually drop out of their studies. Even in Australia, it's the same situation, and do not take up further studies or secondary studies out of the school, especially in the regional areas. So this Flying Scientist has been very interesting and an exciting program of which I have been part of. And I have been able to fly to many regional areas. And this year we have been doing all of this by webcams and web chats, which has been pretty good too. The other photo, what you see here, is the one of the national awards I received in 2018, which is the Researcher
The
of
other
the
photo
Year
that you see here
from
is
Australia, which was again a wonderful outcome to receive this award nationally and getting recognized for my research here in Australia. A fantastic outcome. The final one, which you see, which is on the top cover of Science, that's kind of a photo which is fake photo, kind of, I can say, was made by I attended the American Society of Human Genetics meeting, and this is where they were doing these photo shoots. Um, was done by a company and who had this science banner as their backdrop and had permission and everything. But I keep this photo as an inspiration for myself that maybe one day, not me, but my research could be on the front page of Science like this. So this is why I have ended up this arrow with that photo, because that's always an inspirational photo for me, maybe not for anybody else. So I'm really pleased that I have that photo with myself. So I think that summarizes all of the photos in this journey. But yeah, I'm certainly happy to discuss any of the part which is more of your interest, and we can go from there.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's awesome, awesome, absolutely incredible, Jyotsna. Especially, the last photograph that you described. It's probably one of the dreams of every scientist, to be featured like this. I'm sure that you have already guzzled wonderful science discussions over your life, and you have really inspired many folks, not just me, but also many women scientists as well. That has been absolutely incredible journey. But probably one primary question that I've always wanted to ask you, Jyotsna. You have, of course, you have already described that seldom scientists move to Far East like Australia, but soon after you quickly finished your PhD, we don't have that kind of postdoctoral experience other than this so-called early career fellowship. So what inspired you to take up this early career fellowship? That to taking up asthma, risk of cancer, epigenetics. Yeah.
Um, so this had a couple of things. The first one was, as I have mentioned, it was more about opportunity, right? But the other thing was also mostly about I was really keen because when I was doing asthma genetics in India at IGIB, I started to realize that the genetic component behind asthma is not that big as it is behind some of the cancers. For example, behind prostate cancer, I mean, prostate cancer is 55% genetically driven in comparison to asthma, which is still considered more environmentally driven. So I had all the tools and techniques with me, and as I've already said, that during my PhD, my interest moved more from immunology to more towards the genetic side. So when I was getting ready to choose my postdoc, I did have this discussion with Dr. Ghosh as well, that what do I want to do in the future, whether I want to be placed in asthma in allergy labs or I want to go somewhere else, because it was easier for him to have, because he had lots of connections with with other researchers working in the field of asthma allergy in comparison to um, in the field of genetics. But I think I was pretty clear at that time that I wanted to do genetics. Essentially, I wasn't really clear which disease I was going to pick up. But more and more I studied and looked for other diseases, it started to become clear that cancer is where I want to focus my future career. And it also was dependent on funding. So there was a fair bit of opportunities with respect to cancer research, funding availability, and that also shaped a bit of my career and the direction of my research and my postdoc career. But I was so happy that I was able to utilize all the training. I mean, I worked really hard during my PhD to obtain most of the training by myself or attending different webinar, and I was doing lots of workshops and with Dr. Parth Majumdar. This was the fantastic opportunity for me to get lots of mentorship from there, and within um, IGIB as well. There were a fair bit of mentoring possibilities were there. So that was a wonderful learning experience during my PhD, learning genetics, and this is what then I tried to carry on in my further career.
Oh, wonderfully inserted, Jyotsna. This is great. I mean, if you really look back at your PhD, Jyotsna, 17 publications. That's incredible. You might have put a lot of efforts, and at the same time, you might have really guzzled some kind of freedom, wonderful science deliberations, with your supervisor. So, how good was the environment like? When studying your PhD?
I can say that this was very inspirational environment during the PhD, but as I said, I'm one of those who always want to take the tough road, and I always enjoy doing which others are not doing. I think this was another inspiration for me um, during my PhD to do something for which there were opportunities available. When I was selecting my lab for my PhD, I got a really good advice, which was to join a rich lab. Okay, and this is what essentially I was looking for. So at least there was not a lot of difficulties with respect to getting consumables and the struggles which mostly are there in within and Indian students have to face. I was on CSR fellowship, so that was giving a little bit of security with respect to my fellowship, not as difficult as his UC fellowship, and consumables availability was there as well. So that was one conducive environment. Um, Rest of the stuff, comes through. You always face difficulties. You have to learn and grow up. I think PhD is such a great phase of your career that what you learn in this phase stays with you lifelong in your scientific career. So I would always appreciate whether there were conflicts or there were difficulties as a good learning experience. So I have always taken everything as really positively what I got from my PhD. I mean, even when the environment was not conducive, it really prepared me to take new things on board, right? And also the way to find the path out when there are difficult situations. So all that worked out really well.
Uh, Jyotsna?
Yes, yeah, I'm there, Prash. I can hear you.
Yeah.
Yep. Hello, Prash. Yeah. Hello. Prash. Hello. Hello. Hello.
I think they are having some connectivity
Hello.
problem. You please be online,
Hello.
please. They are having some connectivity problem.
Okay. Yep.
So please wait
Yeah.
for
Yep. Yeah.
2 minutes.
Soon. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, ma'am, we'll be right back.
Hello. Sure.
Yeah. So sorry, Jyotsna, for this, but I'm in IAM's laptop. I apologize for this, small
Yeah.
delay in between. Yeah.
It's all right, Prash.
Yeah. So yeah. So my point was something more towards prostate cancer at this point of time, Jyotsna. I know you have co-led, certain consortia, including the practical consortia. You also had been a part of Indian genome consortia as well. Maybe